What's going on, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis with Inside Arkansas here outside of Boone Pickens Stadium following Arkansas's 39-31 overtime loss to Oklahoma State. We're here to give you the superlatives and the post-game awards. Yeah, I know. It doesn't feel like a game where you're going to give out a lot of awards. Kind of a gut punch for the Razorbacks. But, hey, we do this after every game, good and bad on both ends there. So here we are. Bear with us. We appreciate you. Andrew, I don't think there's any better place to start than the MVPs of this game. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball because I'm a guy who likes to see some scoring. Yeah, we're going to give some credit where it's due, I think, to Oklahoma State, but we're also going to talk about the guys for the Razorbacks who did a good job. So, offensive MVP, who you got?
I think you've got to, Alan Bowman, as weird as he was, is a serious candidate for this award. I don't know if he's the go-to guy, but the go-to guy for him today was that Presley kid who we'd been hearing a little bit about
Presley was tough.
This game.
How many targets? He was targeted, 18, 19 times?
Caught 9 of them, had 91 yards. He was their most effective target. He also had one of their bigger plays of the game with a 36-yard reception. It really was a pretty spread out attack for Alan Bowman, who, again, had tons of misfires. So it's like I feel weird giving him too much credit where in a game where he missed on so many throws, but he ends up throwing for 326 yards. He made some big plays down the stretch, but I do think Presley probably is the guy. I'd say who's not the MVP, Curtis. It's Ollie Gordon, not the MVP.
Yeah, that's actually a good point that I was going to make there. I mean, Arkansas holds the reigning Doak Walker Award winner to 2.9 yards per carry. And what did we kind of say is one of the keys going into the game is you need to make Alan Bowman beat you. And I guess from that standpoint, he kind of did, even though, like you said,
he technically beat you.
Yeah, he really wasn't that sharp in a lot of ways, but he made some plays when it counted and certainly targeted his guys. Mike Gundy fed the studs. I'll give him credit for that because they were really, really giving it to Presley there. So, yeah, I would probably agree on the offensive MVP there from the Arkansas standpoint. They did have some guys at skill positions who really stood out. Listen, Taylon Green, only 58% completions, took some sacks he definitely did not need to take, made some decisions that he would probably like to have back, and then obviously the pick six where he got hit there. But when you throw for 416 yards and run it the way that he did, that's really, really impressive. And if you're looking for a silver lining, I don't know if those exist anymore after a game like this for Arkansas, but his performance you've got to feel good about. Jaquindon Jackson, nearly 150 yards rushing. He was an absolute animal, 3 touchdowns on the ground. But despite both of those guys, I think there's someone there that you were pretty impressed with, Andrew, on the receiving end.
Well, I think he's maybe my Arkansas MVP, and he's also a big surprise in this game. I thought Andrew Armstrong was going to play. I borderline guaranteed it on our last Inside Arkansas Live. I definitely don't think I had him playing what it was probably ended up being over 70 snaps. He finishes with 10 receptions, 164 yards. We have to admit, we'd be remiss if we didn't admit, he did stat pad a little bit there at the end of the game. That was back when life was fun and things were good and we were like, oh, it's all good. But Andrew Armstrong, to come out and play the way he did, and it took him a while to get going in the game too. They didn't target him hardly any in the first quarter, but what a way to announce his arrival into his senior season, this 2024 season. Very unfortunate for him that it came in such weird circumstances, but time and time again, third down, Taylon Green knew who he needed to go to. He beats man coverage. He's always open. AA always open, 7-11. Obviously, Hog fans would love to be celebrating this in a win, but it's hard not to be encouraged by what Andrew Armstrong did. But you mentioned Taylon Green and Jaquindon Jackson. It's hard not to acknowledge Taylon Green having damn near 500 yards of offense. He throws for 416, which is by far his career high. I don't think any Arkansas fans left this game thinking, hey, we can't win with this quarterback. There's obviously things we need to clean up there. He knows that. We know that. The pick, which he was hit on, tough. Jaquindon Jackson as well. It's hard to overlook the massive turnover he had.
He's been dropping it, man. That's 3, I think, in 2 games. So.
Yeah, he fumbled on the first play of the year. And he also almost had another one that would have been a costly one. He was running that cat over. But, 149 yards. He also caught a pass. He's nearing his career total for receptions already in 2 games as a Razorback. So, silver lining, boys. Jaquindon Jackson's been catching some passes. 24 carries, 149 yards. He ended up with 24 carries, but Curtis, I felt like they should have went to him a little bit sooner in that third quarter. After Arkansas's first drive in the third quarter when they didn't go to him, I was like, I don't know how you don't go to him there. And I definitely didn't say that because I had the Jaquindon Jackson over 100 yards prop, 2 touchdowns, which he cashed no problem either way. But yeah, lots to like about this Arkansas offense. A lot of receivers who stepped up, plenty of candidates for this MVP award. But I think Andrew Armstrong's performance at least stuck out to me, and he didn't have a screw up as big as Taylon Green and Jaquindon Jackson had, so it's hard to overlook him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Just a frustrating game for the Razorbacks to lose because they were so dominant in that first half in particular. And Then the Hogs hogged, which is just man, I'm just getting tired of saying that. But the defensive side of the ball, Arkansas had some guys who did some good things. Xavier Sori, I thought had a really nice game. What do you wind up with? A dozen tackles,
12
maybe more than
tackles,
that. Yeah,
few
so
for loss too.
right, he was a big part of keeping Ollie Gordon bottled up there. The defensive line as a whole, I thought did a pretty nice job. Weren't getting to Bowman all that much, but they just don't allow sacks. They get the ball out so quick. But bottling up that rushing attack was good to see. T.J. Metcalf had a big game for the Razorbacks there, but unfortunately, you got to look at some of the statistics put up by Oklahoma State. They had two guys who really filled it up in the stat sheet.
We always say this, that tackles are a little bit of a deceiving stat sometimes, especially when you take it over a long season. Like having 100 tackles doesn't mean you're a good player, but it's really hard to overlook Oklahoma State safety T. Rucker having 17 tackles, 11 of
That's
which
nuts,
were
man.
solos. Their linebacker, Nick Martin, I thought Oklahoma State's linebackers were really impressive, very athletic. Nick Martin kind of led the charge there. He had 16 tackles, 4.5 which came for loss. They also had a defensive lineman whose name I cannot pronounce, but he had a couple sacks and 3.5 tackles for loss. But there were a few standouts there on the defensive side for Oklahoma State. And credit to the Cowboy defense, made some clear adjustments. Arkansas,
Yeah, they did.
I mean, hard to say that when they gave up 650 yards of total offense, a lot of which even came in the second half. But you could tell it was a little bit tougher on this Razorback offense in the second half. Those holes weren't quite as big, aside from a break off here and there. But in the second half, you can kind of tell in that first possession, Arkansas ran the ball 2 plays in a row and got, I think, just 1 yard combined. You can kind of tell it wasn't going to be just a cakewalk. And at one point, Curtis, you said to me, I don't think this Oklahoma State team's going to lose 42-0 at home here. And credit to them, they did not.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we're going to skip special teams in terms of giving out awards because that was just weird all around. Some really problematic things for Arkansas. Obviously, had some struggles there in the field goal kicking department, but then you had some clutch moments also from Ramsey. Satania with the muff punt there. Looks like, I couldn't get the number exactly, but looks like one of his own players kind of ran into him or got shoved into him, and that might have complicated things. But some tough breaks there, and then Oklahoma State. They had some missed opportunities on special teams as well. So nobody gets an award for that. You all fell. Congratulations.
Curtis, you want to know a crazy fact here? I have a buddy who I consider a ball knower. He used to work for PFF, so that gives him some street cred there. He texted me in the first half and said, man, this is a small thing, but credit to Satania. He's done a good job catching these punts because you remember early in the game,
Yeah.
he caught that ball at the 45-yard line, which ended up setting Arkansas's first touchdown drive up. And that was the one he had to catch in traffic. He caught one inside his 20 where he kind of had to go back, and Monte Harrison it, who got out on the field for a play or two.
did.
But hard to overlook. And Satania had a good game on offense as well. We were happy they were able to get him going, but good Lord, man.
Oh, buddy.
That was, we were currently walking over to Eskimo Joe's where we failed to do a post-game show, live show. But we were walking over there when that happened, and that was when that sinking feeling in your stomach started to really, when you see stuff like that happen, you know it's not going to end well as a Razorback fan.
Yeah. I lied. I'll give out 2 participation trophies for special teams. One goes to Devin Bell because it was nice to see him punt, I guess. Maybe it would be cool if Arkansas just scored touchdowns every drive the entire season, but looked pretty solid out there. And then Tyrone Broden, I mean, he's the gunner of the year. Like you said to me in the moment when he ran down there and fielded that punt at the 2-yard line, he's going to find his way onto an NFL roster because of that. So a nice special teams weapon there for the Razorbacks. But man, oh man, that was a tough one for sure. I don't know if we can even give out a play of the game with so much happening. Was there one play that stood out to you or no?
If there is a play that sticks out to me, it's Arkansas's turnovers. And
Yeah,
I think the
man.
pick six earlier in the game, which at that point in time it was a 14-0 game. It kind of looks like, hey, Arkansas is about to go up 21-0. They throw a pick six on a ball where Taylor Green was hit. That kind of breathed some life into that Oklahoma State sideline, and it weirdly took a long time for them to capitalize. But I still look back and feel like that was the moment we knew they had a chance. We didn't know how good of a chance. It turned out a very good chance, but I think that was kind of the moment when you could kind of tell, oh, this ain't going to be no walk in the park. This isn't going to be an easy one, and we felt like Arkansas had recovered from that moment, and credit to the offense because they didn't come out and show any of those signs of worry that they were about to have a demise here in front of our eyes, but I feel like that play kind of kept Oklahoma State in it, and that turned out to be more than enough for them to come out on top in this one.
Yeah. So an unfortunate loss for the Razorbacks, and even more unfortunate for Razorback fans. This is kind of the exact same way you've seen it happen over and over and over again, especially here recently. Another one-possession loss for Sam Pittman. Frustrating. completely understand anybody who's upset about it, frustrated about it. We certainly are too. But 2 games in the season, you got a long way to go. And I do think, moral victories aside, at least this team will be fun to watch offensively. I think we can both agree with that, right? I mean,
They will be fun
they
to
got
watch. I mean, they move the ball at will, Curtis.
Right. Whether that winds up meaning wins, I don't know. This is definitely a big swing game and one that they need to have if they're going to get to postseason eligibility in a bowl. But I was at least entertained. So I'll take that for this one, I guess. But a brutal beat there for the Razorbacks. They fall to 1-1 on the season. They got UAB coming up next week. But we've got more coverage coming your way from inside Arkansas. Again, apologies for the snafu with the postgame show. There were like 3 different outlets who were trying to get a post game fired up outside of Eskimo Joe's, and it just was not happening for anybody. But we got a recording out, and we got a few things coming your way, and then we're going to make it up to you with a little bit of a Sunday therapy session, which I'm sure after you guys sleep on it, you're all going to feel better, right? Wrong. It still sucks. It's still going to be brutal, but we'll catch you guys then. Appreciate you as always. Been Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson with